Hello everyone, my name is Elijah David, bishop of the 12th Apostolic Sabbatarian Congregation on the 12th hour of Liberty Hill, Texas. Today is July 4, 2013. Alright, it is the 26th day of the 4th month, 2017. And we start our second service on this day with a song entitled, "'Tis So Sweet to Trust in Yahshua." 'Tis so sweet to trust in Yahshua, just to take Him at His word, just to rest upon His promise, just to know this is the Yah. Yahshua, Yahshua, how I trust Him, how I prove Him o'er and o'er. Yahshua, Yahshua, my precious Yahshua, oh, for grace to trust Him more. Oh, how sweet to trust in Yahshua, just to trust His cleansing blood, just in simple faith to plunge me beneath the cleansing flood. Yahshua, Yahshua, how I trust Him, how I prove Him o'er and o'er. Yahshua, Yahshua, precious Yahshua, oh, for grace to trust Him more. Yes, 'tis sweet to trust in Yahshua, just from silence up to seas, just from Joshua simply taking life and rest and joy and peace. Yahshua, Yahshua, how I trust Him, how I prove Him o'er and o'er. Yahshua, Yahshua, precious Yahshua, oh, for grace to trust Him more. I'm so glad I learned to trust Thee, precious Savior, Yahshua, friend. And I know that Thou art with me, will be with me till the end. Yahshua, Yahshua, how I trust Him, how I prove Him o'er and o'er. Yahshua, Yahshua, precious Yahshua, oh, for the grace to trust Him more. Part 2 of Daniel and Revelation prophecy. This is taken from Shepherd Rod Volume 2. We're going to continue where we left off on our last study. We're on page 30 of the Shepherd Rod Volume 2 by the B.T. Holof, the Shepherd Rod publisher, from 1930 to 1955. And we're dealing with the world history and symbols of the beast. I want to show those to you up close, as you can see them. Alright, we're going to be dealing with them on the big chart here as well. Okay, now, first we're going to defer to a prayer thought taken from the Unseen Watcher of this Prophets and Kings by Ellen G. White. It's about the same subject. We're going to bring you up to the type of the prophecy, and then we're going to show you the antitype. The type taking place about 2,500 years ago, and the antitype taking place right now. Okay. On page 522, chapter 43 of Prophets and Kings by the Ellen G. White, entitled The Unseen Watcher. toward the close of the Daniel's life, great changes were taking place in the land under which over 60 years before he and his Hebrew companions had been carried captive. Now this is talking about 70 years before. Nebuchadnezzar, the terrible of the nations, had died, and Babylon, the praise of the whole earth, had passed under the unwise rule of his successors, and gradual but sure dissolution was resulting. Okay, now it's time for Judah's deliverance. Nebuchadnezzar's dead now, and so now, but Nebuchadnezzar has successors, and his successors have got to be taken out of the way too. Let's read about it. That is before Judah can go back at the end of their 70-year captivity. So it says, through the folly and weakness of the Belshazzar, the grandson of Nebuchadnezzar, proud Babylon was soon to fall. Admitted in his youth unto a share in their kingly authority, Belshazzar gloried in his power. Now, Belshazzar was a grandson of Nebuchadnezzar, and lifted up his heart against the Elohim of heaven. Many had been his opportunities to know the divine will and to understand his responsibility of their rendering obedience thereto. For he had known of his grandfather's banishment by the decree of Elohim from the society of man, and he was familiar with the Nebuchadnezzar's conversion and miraculous restoration unto his kingdom. But Belshazzar, that's the grandson of Nebuchadnezzar, allowed the love of pleasure and the self-glorification to efface the lessons that he should never have forgotten. For he wasted the opportunities graciously granted him and neglected to use the means within his reach for the becoming more fully acquainted with the truth, that which the Nebuchadnezzar had finally gained at the cost of untold suffering and humiliation. Belshazzar passed by with the indifferent. It says it was not long before reverses came. Babylon was besieged by the Cyrus, nephew of the Darius the Mede. Okay, Cyrus and Darius are heathen kings that ruled over Media, Persia, that succeeded this line, Babylon the bear. This is Medo-Persia represented by the bear symbol. Lions are representative of Babylon. Okay. Now it said, so it was not long before the reverses came, for the Babylon was besieged by the Cyrus, nephew of the Darius and the Medes, and commanding general of the combined armies of the Medes and the Persians. Okay. But within the seemingly impregnable fortress, with its massive walls and its gates of the brass, protected by the river Euphrates, and stocked with the provision in the abundance, the voluspinous monarch felt safe and passed his time in the mirth and revelry. Now it says, in his pride and arrogancy, with a reckless feeling of the security, Belshazzar made a great feast unto 1,000 of his lords, and drank wine before the 1,000. All the altercations that wealth and power could command added splendor unto the scene. Beautiful women with their enchantments were among the guests and the attendants at the royal banquet. Men of the genius and education were there. Princes and statesmen drank wine like the water, and reveled under its maddening influence. With the reason dethroned through the shameless intoxication, and with the lower impulses and passions now in the ascendancy, the king himself took the lead in the riotous orgy. As the feast progressed, he commanded to bring the golden and silver vessels which the Nebuchadnezzar had taken out of the temple which was in Jerusalem, that the king and his princes, his wives, and his concubines might drink therein. For the king would prove that nothing was too sacred for his hands to handle. They brought the golden vessels, and the king and his princes, his wives, and his concubines drank in them. They drank wine and praised the God of the gold and of silver, and of the brass, and of iron, and of wood, and of the stone. Little did Belshazzar think that there was a heavenly witness unto his idolatrous revelry, that a divine watcher unrecognized looked upon the scene of the profanation, heard the sacrilegious mirth, beheld the idolatry, but soon the uninvited guest made his presence felt. When the revelry was at its height, a bloodless hand came forth and traced upon the walls of the palace characters that gleamed like the fire. Words which, though unknown unto the vast throngs, were a portent of doom unto the now conscience-stricken king and his guest. Hushed was a boisterous mirth, while the men and women, seized with the nameless terror, watched the hand slowly tracing the mysterious characters. Before them passed, as in the panoramic view, the deeds of their evil lives. They seemed to be arranged before the judgment bar of the eternal Elohim, whose power they had just defied. Where but a few moments before had been hilarity and blasphemous witticism, were pallid faces and cries of the fear. When the Elohim makes men fear, they cannot hide the intensity of their terror. Okay. Belshazzar was the most terrified of them all, for he was who above all others had been responsible for the rebellion against the Elohim, which that night had reached its height in the Babylonian realm. In the presence of the unseen watcher, the representative of him whose power had been challenged and whose name had been blasphemed, the king was paralyzed with the fear. Conscience was awakened. The joints of his loins were loosed, and his knees smote one against another. For the Belshazzar had impiously lifted himself up against the Elohim of heaven, and had trusted in his own might, not supposing that any would dare say, "Why doest thou thus?" But now he realized that he must render an account of the stewardship entrusted him, and that for his wasted opportunity and his defiant attitude he could offer no excuse. In vain the king tried to read the burning letters, but here was a secret he could not fathom, a power he could neither understand nor gainsay. In despair, he turned unto the wise men of the realm for the help. His wild cry rang out in the assembly, calling upon the astrologers, the Chaldeans and the soothsayers to read the writing. Whosoever shall read this writing, he promised, and show me the interpretation thereof, shall be clothed with scarlet, and have a chain of the gold about his neck, and shall be the third ruler in their kingdom. Verily of no avail was his appeal unto his trusted advisers with the offers of rich awards. Heavenly wisdom cannot be bought or sold. All the king's wise men could not read the writing, nor make known unto the king the interpretation thereof. They were no more able to read the mysterious characters than had been the wise men of a former generation to interpret the dreams of the Nebuchadnezzar. That was his grandfather. Then the queen mother remembered Daniel, who over half a century before had made known unto the king Nebuchadnezzar the dream of the great image and its interpretation. O king, live forever, she said. Let not thy thoughts trouble thee. I know it said she said, but I believe this was Daniel talking. He said, let not thy thoughts trouble thee, nor let thy countenance be changed. There is a man in thy kingdom in whom the spirit of the holy gods, and in the days of thy father, light and understanding and wisdom, like the wisdom of the gods, was found in him, whom the king Nebuchadnezzar made master of the magicians, astrologers, Chaldeans, and soothsayers, for as much as an excellent spirit and knowledge and understanding, interpreting of the dreams, and showing of the hard sentences, and dissolving of the doubts, were found in the same Daniel, whom the king named Belteshazzar. Now let Daniel be called, and he will show the interpretation. So here's Daniel in the palace of the Nebuchadnezzar first, interpreting dreams of Nebuchadnezzar. Now here is Daniel in the same kingdom and palace of Babylon, with the grandson of Belteshazzar interpreting the handwriting on the wall. So Daniel the prophet is an interpreter, and he's with the inspiration and secrets of the Most High. Then was the Daniel brought in before the king, making an effort to regain his composure. For the Belshazzar said unto the prophet, Art thou that Daniel, which art of the children of the captivity of Judah, whom the king and my father brought out of Jewry? Now it says that Nebuchadnezzar was Belshazzar's father, and maternally this is true, no doubt. History only gives us certain facts on this, but there's another place where it says Nebuchadnezzar was the father of Belshazzar. But we'll clarify that. Meanwhile, let's just go with what Daniel 5:2 says, that Belshazzar is the son of Nebuchadnezzar. So it says, I have even heard of thee, that the spirit of the gods is in thee, and that light and understanding and excellent wisdom is found in thee. And now the wise men, the astrologers, have been brought in before me, that they should read this writing and make known unto me the interpretation thereof. But they could not show the interpretation of the thing, and I have heard of thee that thou canst make interpretations and dissolve doubts. Now, if thou canst read the writing and make known unto me the interpretation thereof, thou shalt be clothed with scarlet, and have a chain of gold about thy neck, and shalt be the third ruler in the kingdom. That's the kingdom of Babylon now. Unbeknownst to Belshazzar, though, his kingdom of Babylon is fast coming to an end, the very night that Belshazzar called Daniel in to interpret the handwriting on the wall. Okay, so Daniel was made the third ruler in Babylon that night, at the same time that Babylon came to its end. So, Medo-Persia, Cyrus and Darius, working together, kings of Medo-Persia, overthrows Belshazzar, and Daniel continues on with Cyrus and Darius. Okay. I believe he did. We'll confirm that a little later. Okay, let's continue here. So before that terror-stricken throng, Daniel, unmoved by the promises of the king, stood in the quiet dignity of a servant of the Most High, and not to speak words of the flattery, but to interpret a message of the doom. Let thy gifts be unto thyself, he said, and give thy rewards unto another. Yet I will read the writing unto the king, and make known unto him the interpretation. And so Daniel turned down the gifts and the rewards, that he should be the third ruler in the kingdom of Babylon. So the prophet first reminded Belshazzar of the matters with which he was familiar, but which had not taught him the lesson of the humility that might have saved him. He spoke of the Nebuchadnezzar's sin and fall, and of the Yahweh's dealing with him, for the dominion and glory bestowed upon him, the divine judgment for his pride, and his subsequent acknowledgement of the power and mercy of the Elohim of Israel. And then in the bold and emphatic words, he rebuked Belshazzar for his great wickedness. For he held the king's sin up before him, showing him the lessons he might have learned, but did not. For the Belshazzar had not read aright the experience of his father Nebuchadnezzar, nor heeded the warning of the events so significant unto himself. Now I know it says the grandson of Nebuchadnezzar. True, there is a king between Nebuchadnezzar and Belshazzar. His name is Nabonidus, and he reigned from 556 to 539. We know that Belshazzar reigned after him, and the encyclopedia says Nabonidus was the father of the Belshazzar. But anyway, let's go ahead. Even this book we're reading from right now, Prophets and Kings, it's first told us that they quoted Daniel 5:2, where it says Belshazzar, the son of Nebuchadnezzar. So let's leave it at that. So I'm calling him the son of Nebuchadnezzar all through our studies. For the opportunity of the knowing and obeying of the true Elohim had been given him, but had not been taken to heart, and he was about to reap the consequence of his rebellion. Thou, O Belshazzar, the prophet declared, hast not humbled thine heart, though thou knewest all this, and but hast lifted up thyself against the Elohim of the heaven, and they have brought the vessels of his house before thee, and thou, and thy lords, thy wives, and thy concubines have drunk wine in them, and thou hast praised the gods of the silver and gold, of the brass, iron, wood, and stone, which see not, nor hear, nor know, and the Elohim in whose hand thy breath is. It says that, and whose are all thy ways, hast thou not glorified. Then it was a part of the hand sent from him, and this writing was written. Turning unto the heaven sent message on the wall, the prophet read, Many, many tekel upharsin. The hand that had traced the characters was no longer visible, But these 4 words were still gleaming forth with a terrible distinctness, and now with the bated breath the people listened while the aged prophet declared, "This is the interpretation of the thing. Many, Elohim hath numbered thy kingdom, and finished it. Tekel, thou art weighed in the balances, and art found wanting. Perez, thy kingdom is divided and given unto the Medes and the Persians." In that last night of the mad folly, Belshazzar and his lords had filled up the measure of their guilt and the guilt of the Chaldean kingdom. No longer could Elohim's restraining hand ward off the impending evil. Through the manifold providences, Elohim has sought to teach them reverence for his law. "We would have healed Babylon," he says. He declared of those whose judgment was now reaching unto heaven, but she is not healed. Because of the strange perversity of the human heart, Elohim had at last found it necessary to pass the irrevocable sentence that Belshazzar was to fall and his kingdom was to pass into other hands. As the prophet ceased speaking, the king commanded that he be awarded the promised honors, and in harmony with this, they clothed Daniel with the scarlet and put a chain of gold about his neck, and made a proclamation concerning him that he should be the 3rd ruler in the kingdom of the Babylon. Okay. As I read to you earlier, Daniel turned it down when he told Belshazzar, "Let thy gifts and thy rewards remain with thee." Okay, now let's continue. More than a century before, inspiration had foretold that the night of the pleasure during which king and counselors would vie with the one another and the blasphemy against Elohim would suddenly be changed into a season of the fear and destruction. And now, in the rapid succession, momentous events followed one another exactly as had been portrayed in the prophetic scriptures, years before the principals in the drama had been born. While still in the festal hall, surrounded by those whom doom had been sealed, the king is informed by a messenger that his city is taken by the enemy, against whose devices he had felt so secure, that the passages are stopped and the men of war are frightened. Even while he and his nobles were drinking from the sacred vessels of the Yahweh, and praising the gods of the silver and of the gold, the Medes and the Persians, having turned the Euphrates out of its channel, were marching into the heart of the unguarded city. The army of the Cyrus now stood under the walls of the palace. The city was filled with the soldiers of the enemy, as with the caterpillars, and their triumphant shouts could be heard above the despairing cries of the astonished revelers. And that night was Belshazzar, the king of the Chaldeans, slain, and an alien monarch sat upon the throne. Who's that alien monarch? Cyrus. Clearly had the Hebrew prophets spoken concerning the manner in which Babylon should fall. As in the vision Elohim had revealed unto them the events of the future, they had exclaimed, "How is Shishak taken? And how is the praise of the whole earth surprised?" How about the whole world, the whole earth? How has Babylon become an astonishment among the nations? This is a type, folks, because in Revelation 17 on, it tells about the demise of Babylon in this 12th hour that we're in now, and that's what we're working on right now. We're showing you the type. We're laying out the type for these unfolding antitypical prophecies of this Babylon, with all of its players, and starting with Nebuchadnezzar as the king of Babylon. I believe he's the first king of Babylon during the Neo-Babylonian period. Okay. How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How has Babylon become a desolation among the nations? At the noise of the taking of the Babylon, the earth is moved, and the cry is heard among the nations. Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. The spoiler is come up on her. Okay, even upon Babylon. And her mighty men are taken, every one of their bows is broken, for the Yahweh Elohim of the recompenses shall surely require. Now, and I will make drunk her princes and her wise men, her captains and her rulers and her mighty men, and they shall sleep a perpetual sleep, and not wake, saith the King, whose name is the Yeshua of the host. This is talking about the Son. Alright, now I'm going to stop here and make a comment here. On our chart here, we have, down in our time here, we have this little lamb-like beast that represents the government of the United States. You got two horns representing the two-party system that this country was founded on. But this country really wasn't founded on a two-party system, actually. It was founded on a one-party system called the Republic and the Republican Party. It developed into the Republican and Democratic Party in 1860 when Abraham Lincoln became the president, the 16th president of the United States. We'll go into that later. Right now, this is important. Right now, this little lamb-like beast in Revelation 13:3 represents Washington, D.C., where his headquarters are at today. And this beast, this little lamb-like beast, is represented by a president of the United States, and Washington, D.C. is the headquarters for this little lamb-like beast to operate from. He has the appearance of a lamb, but he speaks like a dragon, Revelation 13. Now, a few years back, a voice spoke to me, to my conscience. This is like an audible voice. It says, George Bush is antitypical Nebuchadnezzar. And I said, you'll find his name encrypted in the name Nebuchadnezzar. And I thought, my, this is interesting. So when I looked up Nebuchadnezzar, how to spell it, it's spelled N-E-B-C-H-A-D-N-E-Z-Z-A-R. Okay. Okay. So N-E-B, N-E-B-U-C-H-A-Z-Z-E-R. Okay, so when you look for Bush, B-U-S-H, you'll find it encrypted with the letter C. It's in Nebuchadnezzar's name is C-U-S-H, but in George Bush is spelled B-U-S-H, and the voice said it's encrypted in there. So I said, wow, well this at least lets us know where we're at in the antitype of Nebuchadnezzar in our day. We know when he comes up and plays his part. So when was George Bush Jr. elected as president? 2001. What happened in 2001? We had the 9/11. We had the Twin Towers built up in New York with an inside job by our government. Okay. Now, if Nebuchadnezzar, if George Bush Jr. is antitypical Nebuchadnezzar, and then Nebuchadnezzar ruled upon the throne of Babylon, then Babylon then has come back into prophecy with our government with this little two-horned beast right here. So, antitypical Nebuchadnezzar, George Bush Jr. started operating in 2001, and he operated until 2009. For 8 years, he had the throne there at Washington, D.C., at the White House. Now, this is the antitype playing out. I'm reading to you about the type. Nebuchadnezzar, Belshazzar, and so forth. Tied in with the 70-year captivity of Judah. This is what we're dealing with today. So I'm going to give you the type, but I just want to put that in your mind about where we're at in the antitype. We'll no doubt start with George Bush Jr. and this little two-horned beast that makes an image to this beast right here, the fourth beast. This little two-horned beast, the United States government makes an image to that fourth beast that Daniel saw in vision at the cross, which represented a pagan, imperialistic Rome, which developed into ecclesiastical Rome, which developed into the Catholic Church. Catholic Church is just an offshoot of Babylon. It's one of Babylon's daughters, the Catholic Church is. Okay, so today we have antitypical Babylon then coming back on the stage of the world with antitypical Nebuchadnezzar, George Bush Jr., 2001, starting the antitypical fulfillment of this prophecy that was laid down in type right here at 538 BC with our first king of the Neo-Babylonian Empire, and that was Nebuchadnezzar. Now, it says right here that George Bush then is in charge of this little two-horned beast. The little two-horned beast came up in 1776, right here. This little two-horned beast. Rise of the United States, Revelation 13:11. And that's in 1776 AD. That's at the revolution that we had in this country between the 13 colonies and the war with Great Britain to win their independence from Great Britain. Okay? At the revolution. Okay, now, having set the stage for the type and the beginning of the antitype, we're going to go ahead and finish reading our chapter here on 43 of the Unseen Watcher, Prophets and Kings by the Ellen G. White, where this type is all laid out. Now, how important is Ellen G. White's writings, Adventist? You know, Adventist, I'm really in dire straits for the Adventist people. I feel terrible consternation and trepidation over their absolute refusal to even read Sister White's writings anymore today. You don't know the treasure trove of information that you would have had if you'd been faithful to her writings, which is called the Spirit of Prophecy in our day. Because you would have got you a foundation. Then when it come time for antitypical Elijah, is who I am today, come on the scene and start interpreting these prophecies, you'd have already had your foundation laid with Ellen G. White, with the knowledge of what she put down in the type. So, let us continue on. It says that I have laid a snare for thee, and thou art also taken, O Babylon. He laid a snare for Belshazzar, the son of Nebuchadnezzar. Although Belshazzar had another king of Babylon sandwiched in between the death of Nebuchadnezzar in 562 BC, Nabonidus became the king that succeeded Nebuchadnezzar in 556 BC, just 6 years after Nebuchadnezzar's death, and he reigned until 539 BC, and we know that the 70-year captivity of Judah that was in captivity to Babylon, and the last one they was in captivity to was Belshazzar. We know they came out of Babylonian captivity in 535, 4 years after Belshazzar was disposed of. And these kings that disposed of Belshazzar, represented by the Medes and the Persians, this bear here, are the ones that was in charge of Babylon until the Cyrus and Darius helped Nehemiah and Ezra and Zerubbabel, the governor of Judea, that was in captivity under Nebuchadnezzar, helped those men with finances and all kinds of help with an army of helpers along with wagons and animals to pull those wagons with, and to take all those vessels and stuff back to Jerusalem that Nebuchadnezzar had taken captive 70 years earlier. I have laid a snare for thee, and thou art also taken, O Babylon, and thou wast not aware. Okay, so today, antitypical Babylon right here, mystery Babylon, this woman right here, this is where we're at today. This woman came into being in 2009 at the inauguration of President Obama. This is when this is where we advanced to. We advanced from this little two-horned beast, and Nebuchadnezzar, antitypical Nebuchadnezzar, George Bush's reign, 2009, January 20, 2009. It's when we passed into this woman, Babylonian, right here, Mystery Babylon, Revelation 17. Okay. Now, this is where we're at until this mystery Babylon makes a decree that all should bow down to this image that this little two-horned beast made. Here's this image. To this first beast, fourth beast that Daniel saw in vision 2,000 years ago. Okay. So, this fourth beast that Daniel saw in vision represented Imperial Rome, and also now, this fourth beast represented the king of the north, which you'll find in Daniel 11, 10 and 11. Talks about the king of the north and the king of the south. The king of the south is represented by this woman right here, the Arab world. Okay? This woman right here is a representative of the Arab world. That's why she's called Mystery Babylon, because she claims to be the goddess of this world. And that's exactly the Muslims' religion in their Quran. They have Allah, their God, which is a female goddess. Okay? And Daniel chapter 11 indicates that the king of the south is from Egypt. And the king of the north is from Rome. And Rome is on the north side of the Mediterranean Sea, and Egypt is on the south side of the Mediterranean Sea. They're oceans apart, the king of the north and the king of the south. Go look on your map, on your world map of the Middle East. Okay? Now it says, thou art found and also caught, because thou hast striven against the Yahweh. The Yahweh hath opened his armory, and hath brought forth the weapons of his indignation, for this is the work of the Yahweh Elohim of the host in the land of the Chaldeans. Thus saith the Yahweh of the host, the children of the Israel and the children of the Judah were oppressed together, and all that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go. Their Redeemer is strong. The Yeshua of the host is his name. This is Yeshua. This is talking about Yeshua in the Old Testament. Because Yeshua is the King of hosts of the 144,000 last days. He's always been the King of hosts, and the host has been his saints. It's been those he's been able to work with all through the centuries, starting with the first dominion, and starting with Adam and Eve, and they had to leave the garden. Yeshua is one that worked with them outside the garden, and through down for 6,000 years has worked with his saints and his remnant. So it says, thus saith the Yeshua the host, the children of the Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together, and all that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go. Their Redeemer is strong. The Yeshua the host is his name. But did you know that the tribe of Judah is in captivity today? Okay. She's in captivity under the Assyrian yoke. And the Assyrian yoke is a yoke of Babylon. Okay, so when we had the antitypical overthrow of Belshazzar in our day, which this woman would represent, which would be the last president of the United States that we have right now, acting president, the man from Africa. Here you are, all in a whole package deal. Arabs, Muslim, female goddess, claiming to be the god of this world. Okay. The Yeshua of the host is his name. He shall thoroughly plead their cause, that he may give rest unto the land, and disquiet the inhabitants of the Babylon. So how is Israel going to turn out today? How is it all going to turn out? He's going to give rest to his people. So Yeshua is coming down here to plead the cause of all the adversaries that are surrounding Israel today and coming against her, wanting her to destroy off the face of the earth. Yeshua is going to be right in the middle of that, pleading their cause, and they're going to find out that they have an invalid cause, and that they're going to have to pay the price for it by their demise. Instead of the demise of Israel, it's going to be the demise of all of those that come up against Yahushua rebel. That's Zechariah 14 and Zechariah 12. 10 through 14, you have it all told there. Thus the broad walls of the Babylon became utterly broken, and her high gates burned with the fire. Thus did the Yeshua the host cause the arrogancy of the proud to cease, and lay low the haughtiness of the terrible. Thus did Babylon, the glory of the kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldeans' excellency, become as Sodom and Gomorrah. Well, what do we have today, folks? We have this here people that are sexual deviants, called, as another word for it, concupiscence, meaning all diversities of sexual improprieties. And so we have the homosexual, the bisexual, the drag queens, everything imaginable, everything is evil. And lo and behold, the Sodom and Gomorrah is found right there in Revelation 11 as a prophecy about the fulfillment of the prophecy for the United States. These right here. Here's your Sodom and Gomorrah right here, represented by this woman right here. A place forever accursed. So where is the place that this is antitypically being revisited nowadays? Here in the United States. So this is a place forever accursed. Sodom and Gomorrah was forever accursed back then. It was burnt and destroyed, and it still is that way to this day. Completely, utterly destroyed and almost forgotten about. But in the antitype, Sodom and Gomorrah is the United States. Well, actually, I say the United States. Sodom and Gomorrah is concentrated right there in Washington, D.C. and in New York. New York, on the East Coast, from New York to Washington, D.C., is a place for Sodom and Gomorrah. The UN is one place for the antithetical headquarters of Sodom, and Washington, D.C. is an antithetical headquarters for Gomorrah. Okay. So, those people, those two places are forever cursed. They shall never be inhabited. Inspiration has declared, now shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. Now shall the Arabian pitch tent there. Now shall the shepherds make their fold there. But wild beasts of the desert shall lie there, and their houses shall be full of doleful creatures. An owl shall dwell there, and satyrs shall dance there, and the wild beasts of the islands shall cry in their desolate houses, and dragons in their pleasant palaces. So when this is all this fulfillment of our day, Washington, D.C. is going to be represented by this type I just read to you. Utter desolation, that and the UN there in New York and New York State. I will also make it a possession for the bittern and the pools of water, and I will sweep it with the beast of destruction, saith the Yeshua of hosts. Isn't Nebuchadnezzar the first king of Babylon? Is he declared as being the king of the world? He's the first ruler of the whole world, this side of the flood. Now here it is. Flood, Noah and the flood, 2400 BC, 538 BC, about 1,000 years later, then you have the first king of Babylon reign, and that's Nebuchadnezzar. Okay. Unto the last ruler of Babylon, as in the type, is first, and the last ruler of Babylon was Belshazzar, his son, Nebuchadnezzar's son, or some historians call it his grandson. We'll clear that up a little later. Okay, unto the last root of Babylon, as in the top, unto his first had come to the sentence of the divine watcher. O king, now Daniel is now addressing King Nebuchadnezzar, Belshazzar. To thee it is spoken, the kingdom is departed from thee. Okay. Okay, so now Belshazzar's reign was up to 539 BC. 4 years later, the children of Judah came out of the Babylonian captivity. So I'm saying Belshazzar's reign was really up to 535 BC, at the very year that the children of Judah, the 7-year captivity of Judah, started to trek back to their homeland in Jerusalem. So now it says, come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of the Babylon. Sit on the ground, there is no throne, sit thou silent, and get thee into the darkness, O daughter of the Chaldeans. For thou shalt no more be called the lady of the kingdom. I was wroth with my people, I have polluted mine inheritance, and given them into thine hand. Thou didst show them no mercy, and thou saidst, I shall be a lady forever, so that thou didst not lay these things unto thy heart, neither didst thou remember the latter end of it. Okay, I believe that's in Daniel 4:31. Therefore hear now this, thou that art given to pleasures, that dwellest carelessly, that sayest in thine heart, I am and none else beside me, I shall not sit as a widow, neither shall I know the loss of the children. These two things shall come unto thee in a moment, in the one day, the loss of children and widowhood. They shall come upon thee in their perfection for the multitude of thy sorceries, and for the great abundance of thine enchantments. For thou hast trusted in thy wickedness, thou hast said, none seeth me. Thy wisdom and thy knowledge, it hath perverted thee, and thou hast said in thine heart, I am and none else beside me. Okay. Therefore shall evil come upon thee, thou shalt not know from whence it riseth, and mischief shall fall upon thee, thou shalt not be able to put it off, and desolation shall come upon thee suddenly, which thou shalt not know. Stand now with thine enchantments, and with the multitude of thy sorceries, wherein thou hast labored from thy youth. Now, this is Daniel talking to Belshazzar. This is that night when Belshazzar made his doom and his end. This is that night when Babylon came to an end at the hands of the Medes and the Persians. If so be thou mayest prevail, thou art wearied in the multitude of thy counsels. Let now the astrologers, the star gazers, the monthly prognosticators stand up and save thee from these things that shall come upon thee. Behold, they shall be as stubble. They shall not deliver themselves from the power of the flame. None shall save thee. Every nation that has come on the stage of the action has been permitted to occupy its place on the earth, that the fact might be determined whether it would fulfill the purposes of the Watcher and the Holy One. Prophecy has traced the rise and progress of the world's great empires. Babylon, 538 BC, Medo-Persia, 328 BC. Okay, Greece, right here, 63 BC. And Rome, right here, 31 AD, was when Rome began to reign. Now, Rome began to reign in the New Testament period, whereas these first three kingdoms reigned in the Old Testament period. They were this side of the cross. Rome, the fourth beast in Daniel's vision, is this side of the cross. Okay, in the New Testament. With each of these, as with the nations of the less power. Now, the reason I say New Testament time, because the New Testament time didn't begin until 31 AD, when Yahshua was hung on the cross. And this is where Rome came into full power. to rule the civil government of Jerusalem over the Pharisees, and to rule also at the time that Yahshua set up his new government with his disciples in the New Testament. Rome still reigned contemporaneously with them, but they didn't have no power over the new kingdom that Yahshua set up with his disciples. Whereas they had power over the Pharisees on the other side of the cross up to closing out the Old Testament, they had power over them, but this beast right here didn't have no power over the new kingdom set up with the disciples. With each of these, as with the nations of the less power, history has repeated itself. Each has had its period of test. Each has failed. Its glory faded. Its power departed. While the nations have rejected Elohim's principles, and in this rejection have wrought their own ruin, yet a divine overruling purpose has manifestly been at the work throughout the ages. It was this that the prophet Ezekiel saw in the wonderful representation given him during his exile in the land of the Chaldeans. When before his astonished gaze were portrayed the symbols that revealed an overruling power that has to do with the affairs of the earthly rulers. Upon the banks of the river Chebar, Ezekiel beheld a whirlwind, seeming to come from the north. A great cloud and a fire enfolding itself, and a brightness was about it, and out of the midst thereof as the color of amber. That's in Ezekiel 1:4. You can read about it. A number of wheels intersecting one another were moved by the four living beings. High above all these was the likeness of a throne, as the appearance of a sapphire stone. And upon the likeness of the throne was a likeness as the appearance of a man above upon it. That's in Ezekiel 1:4 and verse 26. I'm just reading from it. And there appeared in the cherubims the form of a man's hand under their wings. The wheels were so complicated in the arrangement that at the first sight they appeared to be in the confusion, yet they moved in the perfect harmony. Heavenly beings sustained and guided by the hand beneath the wings of the cherubim were impelling those wheels above them. Upon the sapphire stone was the eternal one, and round about the throne was the rainbow, the emblem of the divine mercy. As the wheel-like complications were under the guidance of the hand beneath the wings of the cherubim, so the complicated play of the human events is under the divine control. Amidst the strife and turmoil of the nation, he that sitteth above the cherubims still guides the affairs of this earth. For the history of the nation speaks unto us today. Unto every nation and unto every individual, Elohim has assigned a place in his great plan. Today, men and nations are being tested by the plummet in the hand of him who makes no mistake. All are by their own choice deciding their destiny, and Elohim is overruling all for the accomplishment of his purpose. For the prophecies which the great I Am has given in his word, uniting link after link in the chain of the events, from eternity in the past into eternity in the future, tells us where we are today in the possession of the ages, and what may be expected in the time to come. All that prophecy has foretold as coming to pass until the present time has been traced on the pages of history. And we may be assured that all which is yet to come will be fulfilled in its order. This brings the close of our study this hour. Contact us at the 11th hour call. And remember to click on our audio archives to hear this message and more. You'll find more up there. And so you're in for a treat, all of you that are following and have become the students of prophecy and wants to join the School of the Prophets. We have a place on our website where you can join up, and you can send your tithes and offerings, and you can start supporting this everlasting kingdom of heaven, which is now arising up in the world, which is going to cover the whole earth, starting right here in the Liberty Hill, Texas. We're going to close now with a song entitled, I Love to Tell the Story. I love to tell the story of unseen things above, of Yahshua and His glory, of Yahshua and His love. I love to tell the story because I know 'tis true. It satisfies my longing as nothing else can do. I love to tell the story. It'll be my theme in glory to tell the old story of Yahshua and His love. I love to tell the story, oh wonderful it seems, and all the golden fancy of all the golden dreams. I love to tell the story, it did so much for me, and that is just the reason I tell it now to thee. I love to tell the story, will be my theme in glory, to tell the old story of Yahshua and His love. I love to tell the story, 'tis pleasant to repeat what seems each time I tell it more wonderfully sweet. I love to tell the story, for some have never heard the message of salvation from Yah's holy word. I love to tell the story, will be my theme in glory, to tell the old story of Yahshua and His love. I love to tell the story for those who know it best, in hungering and thirsting to bear it like the rest. And when it sings of glory, I sing